Last Thursday, Bill Gates and the United Nations unveiled a 5-year plan to roll out digital ID systems. This rollout will be taking place in 50 countries, according to Breitbart. But that's not the only thing Gates is investing in. The Microsoft co-founder has heavily invested in patented fertilizers, fake meat, and U.S. farmland. So far, the billionaire has put in $11.7 billion into his food takeover scheme. Let's discuss this with researcher Seamus Bruner. Seamus is the author of the book Controligarchs, exposing the billionaire class, their secret deals, and the globalist plot to dominate your life. I love that title. And the book just hit shelves this week. Peter Schweizer also wrote the foreword. That's quite the endorsement for Controligarchs as well. Thank you, Seamus, for being here. Again, I had never heard the term Controligarchs, but it's absolutely spot on with people, globalists like Bill Gates and what they want for us. So thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Emerald.
In the book, you say the takeover of the food system, like so many other control schemes in this book, began with the Rockefellers and was advanced by Bill Gates, like most of their monopolies from oil to software and eventually biotech. The takeover of food is all about controlling the intellectual property of food production through trademarks, copyrights, and patents. Seamus, it's clear here that you've done a lot of research on this issue. Okay, I have a couple of questions. I do want to know what you find most alarming from your research, but I also have to wonder, is this just about money? Bill Gates' takeover of the food, is it another way for him to amass more wealth? Or is there some other motivation to this plot?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And it's really a little bit of both. I mean, with control over both people and industries comes profits. I mean, there's always been companies like Standard Oil and Rockefeller, the Rockefellers and billionaires like the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts. What Controligarchs really shows is that this is a whole new class of American oligarchs, because the Carnegies and those types, Vanderbilt types, they didn't use their money to control people. They used their money to build libraries and schools and hospitals. And the Rockefellers are sort of in between, where John D. Rockefeller, he was closer to the former type of oligarchs. He was extremely wealthy, but he was also very charitable and gave that money away. Rockefeller's subsequent generations, his son and grandson, David Rockefeller, who was very big in the Council on Foreign Relations and Bilderberg type groups, which always gets sort of panned as conspiracy theory. But I think we see now the successor entity to those is the World Economic Forum. And that's where you see a lot of these plans really detailed, really laid out. They're not shy about things like digital ID, central bank digital currencies, the abolition of traditional meat. And so there's elements of control to it. But yes, the intellectual property, the patents, those are all about the profits. And so a patent, it essentially gives the patent holder a 20-year long monopoly. And if you think about it like a pharmaceutical product, the generic drugs are always much cheaper. The brand new name brand drugs are always very expensive. It's the same thing with energy. It's the same thing with food. Cattle is like the generic, and the Beyond Meats, they are patenting the protein chains here. I mean, patenting seeds, patenting protein. It sounds crazy, but there's a really big moneymaker for companies like, let's say, Monsanto with the seeds, which Bill Gates invested $23 million in Monsanto a number of years ago. And so the patenting of our foods, it's a huge problem. It puts the farm, the smallholder, the family-run farms that have been in the same family for generations out of business. That's a huge problem. Same thing with the energy. And I'll just say this really quickly. Solar and nuclear and wind are the name brand, and oil is the generic. There's not, the process of taking oil out of the ground has basically been perfected to the point where it's extremely cheap and abundant. Whereas in solar, nuclear, and wind, you can't really have any wildcatters or Jed Clampetts in those industries. Those are tightly controlled. The patents are tightly controlled by people like Bill Gates and the other controligarchs in the book.
And you, as you just noted, you didn't just mention the Bill Gates as the only controligarch. You also mentioned billionaire Mark Zuckerberg, whose $36 billion plot to re-engineer society, you say, use AI to force you and your children into tech addiction on steroids. And boy, is that not working out for him, because you look around everywhere, everyone's addicted to Facebook and their phones. So I don't think Mark Zuckerberg even lets his kids on this kind of technology, and most of those Silicon Valley controligarchs don't. So what point are you making about this? Why is this so concerning?
Well, I started writing this book right after amid the pandemic, and I would, the thesis was, look, the pandemic seems very profitable. The lockdowns seem very lucrative for these guys. The middle and lower classes, they lost $1 trillion or more. These guys gained $1 trillion or more. And so how did they do it? With Mark Zuckerberg and the tech addiction, people were locked down in their home. Facebook saw like a 50% rise in its profits as people were locked down. And then I would say, I think it's about last week or a couple weeks ago, state attorney generals across the country have filed suit against Facebook. Keep mixing the two up. Filed suit against Facebook for intentionally making its products addictive. I mean, everything from the chime of the notification to the color scheme in the app. One of Facebook's co-founders or early executives called this the social validation feedback loop. It was intentionally designed to suck you in and keep you addicted. And then what the attorneys general are alleging is that this is leading to rises in teen depression, suicide. It's really not good for kids. And then the Controligarchs takes it a step further, because we saw how much money Mark Zuckerberg is pouring into his metaverse ambitions. A lot of people think metaverse has sort of flopped, but that's not the case. Other companies, Apple, Microsoft has its augmented reality, HoloLens glasses, and the World Economic Forum, of course, has got thousands and thousands of pages on why the metaverse and kind of hooking yourself up to this dystopian technology is the future.
It's just beginning, in all actuality. The book is Controligarchs, exposing the billionaire class, their secret deals, and the globalist plot to dominate your life. It's available right now. You should go read it. It's pretty relevant. Thanks, Seamus. It's nice to meet you and talk with you.
Thanks, Emerald.